YouTube Ozzico and the Goat House is back with our bold predictions, or your bold predictions for week 2 of the NFL. This year a little bit different, not just going off the week, but you guys can send in bold predictions for the season as well. So we do this every single week. I make a post on Twitter. Bunch of you comment, appreciate you playing along. I kind of skim through all of them there and see which ones stand out. So we're going to go one by one and kind of give you my take on each of these bold predictions. And again, some for this week, some for the season. So excited to take a look here. But there's a lot of stuff going on your screen, on my screen, whatever you want to call it right now. Worth looking into. There's links for everything pinned in the comments, but we can get on to the video here. Let's start with the first one, which is I decided to make one every week. Last week I did one for the season. This week we'll do one for week 2. At least 5 underdogs will win in week 2. I don't know if that's actually that bold now that I read it out loud. 5's kind of a lot. But I'm saying at least 5. So, yeah, I think that's bold enough there. But I like a lot of the underdogs this week. I like it. Not that I'll be perfect this week, but I was picking the Dolphins, which could go either way. The Saints, which could go either way. If Kamara's out, I may switch that. But the Panthers are underdogs. The Commanders are underdogs. And then there's one more, and the Vikings are underdogs. And I also could see the Steelers are underdogs. I could see the Steelers winning. I honestly could see the Jets beating the Browns. Not that I'm predicting it. And there's quite a few in there. You can go down the list. There is quite a few. So I'm almost expecting, I'm not thinking all of mine are going to be right, but I'm almost expecting that a chunk of mine and then maybe some of the other ones that we weren't expecting, that nobody's expecting, because those always happen, you know. Nobody was really expecting for an example, the Seahawks to beat the Broncos last week or the Bears to beat the 49ers. So those things happen. So it's hard to play along on my own pick, but I'm going to say it's realistic because I think it's going to happen. You know, I could have thrown up it's happening on there, but yeah, next up, this one comes from KC Fan. This is on the season, sorta. Fast forward a few weeks. The Dallas Cowboys will have the worst record in the league when Dak comes back. So when Dak's finally coming back in, which actually seems to be sooner than we originally thought. It was supposed to be like 8 weeks. Now it could be like 6. I heard somebody throw a 4 out there. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's around 6 maybe. 6 to 8. But I'm not the injury guy. So when he's finally coming back in, will they have the worst record in football? I think it's possible. You know, with Cooper Rush in there, I don't think they're going to add a quarterback. Maybe they could add a quarterback, but not to start. It's not like they're going to go trade for Jimmy Garoppolo or somebody like that, you know. And they got a tough schedule. I think the Giants is next after this week against the Bengals. The Giants, you could always say, is winnable, but maybe they're better this year. They won in week 1. We'll see what they do in week 2. But after that, it's pretty damn tough, you know, who they have to play. So there's some other teams that'll probably make a push for this as well. I mean, some of those teams won in week 1, though. You know, some of those teams have a win already. Some teams that we thought maybe would be in this conversation, teams like the Seahawks, the Bears, the Texans tied. You know, the Jets could be battling the Cowboys, I suppose. I'm going to say it's realistic, though. No Dak Prescott, definitely a possibility there. So that's an interesting one to see who will have the worst record in the NFL when Dak comes back. I'm very curious to see now. What do we got next? We got from Pat Clevinger, bold prediction for this year. Justin Reed, the Chief safety, will be the first player in NFL history to have a field goal and a pick 6 in the same game. I like that one. Kind of creative, and it's something that actually could kind of happen because Justin Reed can kick, and he had to fill in and kick last week. He made an extra point, missed an extra point, had a kickoff actually go through the uprights. That was the most impressive part. So this is kind of a good one, a creative one that's not too out there, but it is pretty damn tricky because he's got, like you think, Justin Reed, he can get a pick 6. He's a pretty damn good safety. You know, that's possible. Could he hit a field goal? Yeah, you know, Butker's hurt right now. If Reed comes in, you know, he can make a field goal, but, you know, Butker's going to be back probably next week. And I don't think Reed's even going to kick for them at all this week. So I think a lot has to happen here. So even though at first glance, it's like, yeah, I mean, it is a creative one. I like it. But first glance, it's like, maybe. Then you start thinking about it, what actually has to happen. I think that's pretty piping hot there. But would be pretty damn cool if it happens. Next, from Joseph Isaiah. the Commanders will be a lesser version of the 2021 Bengals this year and make a run. So, Bengals kind of that surprise team, went a very good team, went a lot further. They went all the way to the Super Bowl, obviously. They went a lot further than everyone expected. So could the Commanders be this year's Bengals? Could they be a little bit lesser a version, he's saying? And it's only been one game, but if there's a team that I was pretty much it's a team that's kind of growing on me based out, and I don't like for that to happen because it's only one game, so I'm not really not going to let it happen. But, since that game happened in week 1, the Commanders grown on me a little bit more and more here. I liked Carson Wentz's game last week. He did throw 2 interceptions, but other than that, he did make some big time plays. I like how they were clutch at the end. In the end, there, I like it. I like the collection of weapons they have in general, but the passing game, and they'll get Chase Young to help the defense. They'll get him back, we would think, in week 5. But at some point to help that defense there. So, and then the Cowboys took a hit. So, Commanders kind of bumped up a spot battling the Eagles for the NFC East for now. I know the Cowboys will still be in the running because Dak should be coming back a little earlier than expected. But, the Commanders can do some damage here. I think it's definitely possible that, what do we consider making a run, make the playoffs, maybe win a playoff game? I think we consider that making a run for the Commanders. It's so tough to say after 1 week. I don't want to be overreacting to it. If we put it like that, could make the playoffs and win a playoff game, I think that's pretty realistic. I think it's pretty realistic, but maybe some people wouldn't go. Maybe that'd be an overreaction, but we'll see what they do. A lot of people are picking the Lions this week. The Lions are actually favored. That surprises me. I picked the Commanders. So to me, I have the expectations that they should be better than the Lions. They should go out there. I know every matchup's different, but I look at the matchup, and I think it favors the Commanders on top of them being the better team. So they got to go out there and take care of business. Just like week 1, week 2, some weird things happened. Weird thing didn't really happen to the Commanders. They took care of business, so I expect them to go out there and take care of business. If they don't do that, maybe I'm thinking a little bit lesser of them. So we'll see. It's a team I got my eye on, though. I love the collection of weapons they have in the passing game. That's pretty impressive there. We'll see if that's a big factor going forward because it was in week 1. We're sticking on the Commanders train here. Carson Wentz has another 4 touchdown game, scores higher than my starting fantasy quarterback Jalen Hurts. Again, I thought that was kind of funny. I think Carson Wentz have a pretty solid game. I actually picked him up in fantasy, and I'm getting crazy. I'm going to start him over Lamar Jackson. I'm getting a little wild there, but I think Carson Wentz going against the Lions' young defense with the weapons he has, I think he should have a very productive game. Even if he turns the ball over, I don't think he'll have 2 interceptions, but even if he turns it over maybe twice, he can still have that big production, especially fantasy-wise there. And then to kind of go on why I was making the bold take of going over Lamar Jackson. Lamar could struggle with that Dolphins defense. There might not be a whole lot of offense in that game. So, I was kind of feeling Wentz. So, I think he can have a big game. Specifically 4 touchdowns, I guess tough to say, but I think he can definitely do it again. But then, the Wentz versus Hurts thing is interesting because Wentz was a big-time scorer in fantasy last week, but Hurts has that running ability going against the Vikings. I think Hurts is going to run wild against the Vikings, and I think that could be a reason they win the game, or the offense has enough to win the game, perhaps. So that's a tough one. Wentz versus Hurts. I think they're going to be both. I think will be towards the top. Maybe Hurts won't have that big of a passing game though. Maybe Wentz has the capability of running some in. But I do, now that I'm saying this one out loud, I kind of like the talking points. The Wentz, can he have as good of a game? And then versus Hurts, it could be 2 fantasy scores. It's kind of hard to answer this one though. Now that I'm saying it out loud. Basically, I think Wentz can have a good game and a good fantasy game, but I think Hurts will as well because what he can do on the ground. So, but I think it's another realistic one here. I think that's all that is very possible. But I'm curious to watch the Commanders, see what they got here in week 2. Team I got my eye on for sure. Next, from Big Ounce, after low usage of Damien Pierce last week, 2 tutties this week. It is an interesting one too because during the game, we're like, what the hell? Where the hell is Damien Pierce? all this Rex Burkhead, what's going on? And then you see that the specific snap counts after, and it's a landslide victory, more of a snap count to Rex Burkhead. It's kind of like, again, what the hell? And then you see a quote from Lovie Smith saying, like that. Yeah, I think he said that was a mistake. Like, that can't happen. We got to get Pierce the ball more. That kind of looks bad on his part. But I guess it's kind of good at the same time that maybe they're going to give him the ball more. So I do think they're going to use Pierce a lot more. Bigger piece of this They are going against the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, where did they struggle defensively? I will say, I'll give them credit in the second half of that Seahawks game. They adjusted and they tackled better. They played better. But where they struggled big time in most of that game of the first half was tackling. Rashad Penny was bouncing off of tackles. And it was even other guys after the catch and things, and stuff, but Damien Pierce, a violent runner. That's kind of what he's known for. And that's why, a lot of us liked him coming out of Florida, because he didn't have like a lot crazy tape or a whole lot of production. But if you turned on that Georgia game, Georgia Bulldogs won the national championship, in my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinion, or at least a chunk of people, that Georgia defense might have been the best defense in college football history. But if you put on the tape Pierce versus that Georgia defense, he looked pretty damn good. I think he only had 9 carries, so he didn't have, if you're a stat watcher, he didn't have all this production. If you put on the tape, Georgia remembers Damien Pierce because he was violent. That is the type of runner he is. He's not like a big speed home run type of guy, but putting those together, breaking tackle ability, and just the violent runner that he is, the physical runner that he is, going against a defense that struggled to tackle last week. Will it continue? I'm not necessarily saying it will continue, but kind of putting those together, you have to use Pierce. And then putting on top of that, Lovie Smith pretty much said they're going to use Pierce more. I think, and we keep going realistic, I almost want to go it's happening, but predicting him to specifically score 2 touchdowns might be tough. I'm thinking about it. Because Davis Mills might get in there as well. I'm thinking maybe 3 touchdowns for the Texans this week. So maybe it's, for 2, maybe 4 touchdowns, maybe for even 50% of them for Pierce to get them. Maybe it's not that likely, but I'm going to say it's realistic. I almost went with it's happening. A lot of realistic ones this week. Maybe it's bold that I'm saying they are realistic. I don't know. All right, that was a good one. That one, Hokie Carr brings the passing game alive with a touchdown from the big 3, Adams, Renfro, Waller. I like this one a lot too. So a touchdown for all 3 of them, right? I think that's what he means, hopefully, because that's what kind of made it interesting and bold. Adams, Renfro, and Waller. And it brings it alive this game. Carr struggled last week, 3 touchdowns, couldn't get much going against the Chargers, mainly because that pass rush, his offensive line didn't help him a whole lot. But this week, play the Cardinals, who struggled on defense a bit last week against the Chiefs. Maybe the Chiefs' offense a little bit better than the Raiders, most people would think, obviously. But it's a good opportunity for Carr and these guys to get things going. So Adams, I'm going to say he scores a touchdown. Waller, I think Waller's, maybe that's bold. Maybe it's kind of another bold statement of me. But I think Waller out of the 3, not that bold, but Waller out of the 3 most likely to score a touchdown. The Cardinals had Isaiah Simmons on Kelsey. Kelsey a little bit different of an animal, even though Waller is an animal. He's very good. But and then Kelsey kind of had his way with Simmons. So Simmons going to be covering Waller. It's kind of what they want to do, but will they do it? Do they have the right guy to cover him? So they may have to go that route anyways. So I watch out for the matchup there with Waller. So Waller, I'm going to say scores. I'm going to guarantee it. He scores. Pretty tough guarantee stuff. But Adams, I think he scores. So it's on Renfro to do it. And if it was Adams and Waller, I would say it's happening. I think both those guys will score. Renfro kind of drops it down a little bit. All 3 is pretty tough. We're gonna go warm on that one, having all 3, because I think it's bold enough. Me saying I'm guaranteeing Waller and Adams score. It's hard to guarantee that. I'll guarantee Waller. I'm gonna say very likely Adams, but that's a little warm. I like that one a lot, though. I think it's very possible for it being kind of a hot take, a warm take, whatever you want to call it. So we'll see. Steven Diana, Derrick Henry fails to rush over 100 yards for the 2nd week in a row. It's a pretty good one too. Pretty crazy that Derrick Henry didn't do so against the Giants there. At the end, they were kind of passing to try to get down. That's only one drive really though, but they were running Henry in obvious situations, predictable situations, which kind of hurt him, and he couldn't get a whole lot going. It's a really good one though, because I could see it either way. Fails to get over 100 yards. Bills, Monday Night Football. Derrick Henry ran wild on him last year. The Bills, very good defense. I do think you can run on them. Not like you can run wild, but I think that's kind of got to be your angle. So I think Derrick Henry, they're going to try to run him. The reason why he might not do it, or maybe you'll say he probably won't do it, is because if it just gets out of hand, like the Bills are very capable of getting the ball first, going scoring, and then getting a stop because their defense is really good, and then going scoring, two score lead. Titans are in a situation where they can't run Henry that much because they're going to run a lot of clock, so therefore he won't get enough carries to get the 100 yards. So that's what makes this one really tough. You basically have to predict how the game is going to go first. Are the Bills going to get a lead where it's almost out of control, where the Titans have to pass, or is that not going to happen? Because if it does happen, then it's happening. It's happening in terms of Henry fails to rush for 100 yards. If the game, if Titans stay in the game the whole time, then Henry's definitely going over 100. So you kind of go from one extreme to another where it's happening or it's happening, I guess, based on the way I explained it. But some of these are tough to answer. I like them. I like the debate that I can have myself. I think it's realistic just because I think it's realistic that the Bills could get a good lead early on and the Titans cannot continue to give the ball to Henry because that'll run the clock. So it's a pretty good one there. And then we got one more here. Cameron DeWeese or Weiss. It could be. I'm terrible with the names. Looks like DeWeese, but I don't know. AFC South remains winless after week 2. So I was thinking, yeah, they didn't get a win last week. I'm like, this could be a good one. So I'm going through it. Titans play the Bills. All right, check. Not that I'm guaranteeing anything, but I think very, very realistic. The Bills win the game. And then we got the Texans. They play the Broncos. Broncos struggled last week. Texans look pretty good. Texans, of course, could win the game. But check. It's very realistic for the Titans and the Texans to lose. But I'm like, all right, who do the Jags play? Who do the Colts play? They play each other. So he's banking on a tie, which the Colts tied last week. It's in Jacksonville. The Colts struggle to win in Jacksonville for the last several years, it feels like, or it is. So I suppose it's possible. I'm going to say I suppose it's possible, but I just don't think a tie happens again. I think we're going to, because I predicted the Broncos and the Bills to win. I think they'll both win, But then, so we just need one more thing to happen. It's that tie. Could the Colts pull it off again? But in that game, too, take away the Colts tied last week, just the Colts at the Jags, like that feels like a game that could realistically tie. Like it really feels like it. Do they tie 2 weeks in a row, the Colts that is. So that's why I'm going to say it's piping, but it'd be pretty crazy if this happens. We can come back to this. We've done that in the past where people had some crazy ones that I said were piping, and they've happened, and I end up tweeting them out. Because they happen. It's pretty funny. So, that's our your bold predictions, I should say, for week 2. We do this every week. Got to play along by following us on Twitter there, waiting for that tweet. But we got a lot going on there. We're talking during live games, including that game tonight, which I guess everyone won't have because they're doing it. It's Prime only. So, we'll be talking during it there. Make sure to check us out. Link down below for that. Anything else you're looking for. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.